This is Woodman here, and today I'm going to do an experiment on the durability of wood in water, specifically moving water. And then later on in the video I'll explain that. These are the different 12 species of wood, 13 pieces. I have a bunch of different species here because I wanted to try them out, or try out at least a few so I can figure out how well they hold up. Here are the different species. First one is desert ironwood, Olnea tassulta, and you can see they all have holes in them, and I'm going to tie them together with copper wire. So that's the first one. The second one here is white oak, Quercus alba. The third one is lignum vitae, Guiacum officinale, regular lignum vitae. The fourth one is the eastern white pine, Pinus strobus. There's a bunch of different kinds of pines, and so I had to look at the end grain on this one under not a microscope. I was using a headset with a magnifying glass on it, very close, and I had to look online at the wood database, which is a very good wood information website. I would highly recommend you go to it and check it out. But I looked at that at the end grains and compared to the end grains of this. I'm pretty confident that this is the Pinus strobus, the eastern white pine. After looking at the close-up of the end grain, I'm pretty confident that that's what this is. It's not some other type of white pine. This is the same thing right here, but it has pine tar on it, and oh, I love the smell of pine tar. Yep, smell it. It smells just like a campfire, but it smells pretty good. I coated that with pine tar, the classical recipe, the pine tar, which is, I think it's like 1/3 pine tar, 1/3 raw linseed oil or boiled linseed oil. In this case, I used raw linseed oil. And 1/3 turpentine. I think that's the classic recipe. And I painted that on here, and I let it dry for a couple weeks. So it doesn't really dry per se. It might get sticky, but mostly it soaks into the wood, and it feels dry to the touch. So I put that on as a preservative for my experiment. But that's also pine with the pine tar. That's what the PT stands for. Alright, we'll continue onward. Here's the purple heart, Peltogene panicaluda, or colada, however that's pronounced. I use the U for purple heart because I already used the P for pine. This is ebony, Gabon ebony, or Gaboon ebony, however you pronounce it. It is Diosporos crassiflora. That's the scientific name. And this is my next one, teak, Tectona grandis. That's another one. This is the black walnut, or American walnut, or just plain walnut. I used A because I used a W for the white oak. I'm assuming it's black walnut, not some European walnut. Juglans nigra. So I figured it's probably, I'm pretty confident of that. My other ones here, this is Cocobola, Dalsbergia retusa. That's a nice one. Smells nice too. It smells when you fresh cut it, it smells like kind of like cinnamon. This is olive, Olea europaea, and I got it from this log that I had. This was from an olive tree that we had when I was growing up in North Phoenix. We cut it down because it got diseased or whatever. I cut it down, and I was in high school then, and I saved this log here, and I haven't decided what to do with it. I've had it for over 30 years, so I'll eventually figure out what to do with it. But that's the olive. This is the Argentine lignum vitae, or more commonly known as Vero wood, Bolesia sarmatoi, and it also has interesting smell. To me, it smells like a vinyl shower curtain. Vinyl, you know, like a brand new vinyl shower curtain will smell like. That's what it smells like to me. Some people say it has a different smell. Oh well. And the final one is redwood, Sequoia sempervirens. Feels lightweight, almost like styrofoam, almost even lighter weight than the pine, but redwood supposedly is a durable wood. I wanted to try that one out too. 12 species, 13 pieces. Honorable mention would be mulberry. We also, when I grew up in North Phoenix, we had a mulberry tree, and I also cut that down because it got too big, and I thought I had saved a piece of the branch or the wood or from the tree as a souvenir because it was cut down years ago, but I looked around in my garage, I couldn't find it, so honorable mention, the mulberry. I wanted to have a mulberry because I've heard mulberry is a durable wood too, or at least that's what I've read, and I wanted to try that out. So anyways, those are my pieces. And this is the copper wire that I'm going to tie them together with. This is typical electrical wire. To me it looks like 12 gauge. I don't think it's 14 gauge, but it's just bare ground copper wire, electrical copper wire. I'm going to tie these together in the shape of my fist in a bunch, and I'm going to put them together in moving water, and I'll show you that in the next video. Actually, I'll tie it together with this video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, we'll go do that right now. All right, we're back. We're back at the moving water. The moving water in this case is the toilet tank. I don't have the luxury of having a brook or a stream outside of my house. That'd be cool if I did, but I don't. So the next best thing is to have a toilet tank, which occasionally gets flushed and the water goes down in, the sewer or whatever. That's something that happens intermittently. Before this video, these are the pieces I put together, and you'll notice they're kind of wet already because I tried them out. I put them in the water, but they kind of floated. I don't want them floating around. They could end up jamming up in the mechanism. So what I did was I got a piece of petrified wood here, and this is pretty heavy. And I'm going to put these in the water and this on top of them, and they will stay there for 2 months. 2 months right down in there. And after the 2 months, I'll take them out and I will examine them, see how well they held up. See, after they dried for a few days, I'll examine them after 2 months when they get waterlogged, and I want to find out what wood held out best for 2 months being submerged in the toilet tank in the water, and just go from there. Again, I've got 12 different species, 13 pieces. It's too bad about the mulberry. Couldn't find that mulberry piece in my garage, and I'm not going to go out and buy a mulberry board just to cut off a 3/4 inch cube for my experiment. Forget it. So we'll just have to do without. Too bad. So this is all together, and you can see I made a nice little bunch together, nice and tight. They're all loose, which is what I want. I want the water to flow freely between them. I put them down in the tank, and you can see they kind of want to float up. Yeah, part of it does. So let me get that there and stay put. And take my piece of petrified wood, regular wood to petrified wood. I'll get that in there, set it up so it doesn't move, doesn't get in the way of the toilet mechanism, and it stays put. And as you can see, let's give it a flush and see how it goes. There. It's not budging at all, which is exactly what I want. Okay. So that's what I want. That's going to stay like that for 2 months. Afterward, I'll take them out, let them dry for a few days, and check them out, see how well they held up. And then I'll go on to my next part of the experiment. But this is kind of unusual, but this is a fun thing that I wanted to try out and see how it works. Also, I didn't waste any water in that flush because I just cleaned the toilet and I had to flush it anyway, so. Alright. There it is. It doesn't seem to be getting in the way of anything. It'll stay put. It won't move. This is Woodman signing off, and then I'll see you guys in a couple months, and we'll come back here and we'll take it out. And I'm really curious to see how this held up. Alright? I'll see you in a couple months. Bye-bye. Alright. Woodman is back here, and it's been 3 months. Not 2 months, because, well, I got kind of busy with things, and so it's been 3 months that this has been sitting in the back of the toilet. I'm not wearing a mask because I'm here at the house, and we don't need to do it with the Wuhan virus amongst ourselves, but when we go out we have to do that. But here during the video I'm not wearing a mask at all, so that is okay. That's why my voice sounds more clear. Also, I have to apologize. When I filmed this, I'm filming it vertically. I should have held my phone horizontally when I first started. Obviously, I didn't think of that because I'd never done a video like this before. That would have been a lot nicer, but I want to keep everything consistent, so I decided I'm going to keep this vertically like my other earlier videos. But again, it's been 3 months. This has been sitting in there. During that 3 months, I did reach in and rotate the bunch of wood. The wood bunches, I didn't take them out of the water, but I kind of rotated them to get them oriented differently so they'd get exposed slightly different. I wanted variance in my experiment, so, but that was just a couple of times I did that, and I haven't really messed with it in probably a month and a half. It was maybe a month and a half since I rotated them. But okay, enough of that. It's been 3 months, and I'm kind of excited to take this out now. I also noticed when I was rotating them that they were kind of slimy. Part of the pieces were getting slimy. So I'll be interested to see that when I take them out right now. So let me reach into the bowl. Take out the petrified wood. That hasn't changed at all. Obviously, since it's stone, more or less. There are the pieces, and they're coming out. And look at them. And they feel heavy because they're all waterlogged, and they look all pretty much the same color. Maybe there's a little bit in there, but yeah, they are. This one feels kind of slimy. That's E, so that would be the ebony one. And they do have some kind of slime on them, but they seem to be structurally sound. I don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let these, take them into my garage, let them dry out for maybe a week or a few days, and then afterward I'll make another video in a few days from now showing what they look like after how they held up. There is some like slime right here. This is, what is this? This is A. What would that be? Walnut? Argentine lignovidae? I don't even remember now. I think it was, yeah, it was walnut, I think. I'll have to take a look. Other than that, they seem to be structurally okay. Let me see, what is this? This is probably the pine tar one, and this is probably the regular pine. Well, even the regular pine is okay. So, interesting. So these have been sitting in the water for 3 months. And, well, alright. Well, I'm going to take them in the garage, let them dry out, and then we'll continue from there. This is Woodman again, signing out, and I'll see you. Oh yeah, one more thing is, put those down right there. If I look down in the water, there seems to be like, they kind of did it, just the stain on the bottom of the toilet here, and there seems to be some like mold around this gasket, I guess, from the I don't know if it's from these or whatever. Maybe the water was more still around them. You can see some of the mold that came off some of the slime that came off the wood is floating around there. Okay, this is Woodman, and I'll see you in a little bit. Maybe after a few days, and these will all be dried out. We could take a close look at them then, and then I'll tell you about the next stage of my experiment. All right, I'll see you then. All right. Hello, everybody again. This is Woodman here for the final installment. Well, it's the end of the experiment, Experiment 1. These are the woods, and they've all... Actually, this has been several weeks. It's been about 4 weeks. Not a few days, but these are all of the woods. They finally dried out really good, and you can see some of the slime. It kind of just dried out on the wood and everything, and they all look structurally okay. I have to say that after about maybe 3 or 4 days of drying, a lot of these were cracked, or some of them were cracked. Like especially the ebony one, it was really cracked. It had some big cracks, but now that it's completely dried out, the cracks have disappeared. But during that time, the ebony was really cracked. The cocobolo, it had a crack in it too. The lignum vitae had a crack, kind of, not too bad. And the ones that weren't cracked were the softwoods. Like the pine wasn't cracked at all. The pine tar, that didn't get cracked. And the white oak, it had a little bit of crack. But the pine tar didn't have a crack. The pine had no cracks. The redwood, that was this one. This is the teak. The teak didn't have any cracks either. But the redwood didn't have a crack. So kind of all the softer woods. And teak is somewhat about the same hardness as the walnut, and it's about the same hardness. Yeah, it's probably almost exactly the same hardness as the walnut. The walnut didn't have a crack either, but especially the ebony, that had a crack. Both lignum vitae had some cracks. The desert ironwood had some hairline cracks, and the purple heart, it had a little bit of cracks, not too bad. And the olive did not have any cracks either. Olive is somewhat of I guess a medium hardwood, sort of like teak or walnut maybe. But that was interesting. But now that it's been drying out for it's been about 3 weeks or a month, these are completely dried out and there aren't any cracks at all in any of them. I don't know if the wood just went back to its original shape, but it's kind of interesting. I noticed that when I first took it out of the toilet and smelled it, it smelled, gross, like a rotted wood kind of. You'd take it out of water that has been soaking for a while, because I had mentioned that it had mold on it. And now that it's been drying, I smell it, and it kind of has some of the original smell, not quite as nice as it was when it was first brand new, before I put it in the water, but it's not as gross as it was when it was took it out of the water before. It was kind of a gross smell, just a rotted wood smell. But you can see there, structurally they look okay. And you see the cracks have all gone. This is the lignum, the regular lignum vitae, and it's kind of a bluish green color. And this is the Vera wood, the Argentine lignum vitae, and it's also kind of a bluish greenish color. A lot of them have lost their colors. This is the cocobolo. Mostly they just kind of got dark. The redwood's not red anymore. It's just like a dark brownish gray, and even the pine tar is kind of washed out. I found that interesting. The pine is about the same, obviously, since it's pine. This is the white oak, and it looks a little bit darker than before. So that's kind of an interesting thing, being in the water, the moving water. A lot of them have gotten dark. It looks like the olive is unchanged. It looks about the same as it was before. It's interesting. It didn't have any cracks on that 3rd day or whatever when I took it out of the water, and it still doesn't. And it looks about the same, about as stable as it can be. Anyways, and the copper wire, of course, is held up. I didn't expect that to change very much, but Okay, that's the end of experiment number 1. This is part 4. This is Woodman here, and this is my experiment of the moving water. They were in the toilet tank for 3 months, and this is what happened to them. These are going to be entered into another experiment. That'll be experiment number 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a hole in the backyard about 6 inches deep, not too deep. I don't want to go down too far. And I'm going to bury these in the ground, and bury them in the ground for a year. And then after that year, I'll dig it up, and I'll see how well they held up being buried in the earth for a year, how well they held up after being exposed to all the microbes of the soil and everything else. And I want it I don't want to bury it real deep, because I want it in the water line with the sprinklers and stuff, so that water and the moisture in the ground will attack the wood, and I'll see how well it holds up. But that'll be experiment number 2. This is experiment number 1. Experiment 1 is done and it's completed, and you can see they all look very similar too, other than they're kind of washed out and darker, but other than that they seem to be structurally okay. Alright, well, that concludes experiment number 1. This is Woodman here. I'm glad that you like my videos, or at least found them somewhat interesting. And I'll see you on the video number 2. Alright, bye-bye.